This is the Fantasy GOAT.
Are you ready for week one? If not, thankfully, you're in the right place.
Yeah, it's our job to get you ready for fantasy football. We're like your fantasy football doctors.
Well, Jason, we actually have Dr. Nithin, not one
true.
that. But hello and welcome, everybody, to the Fantasy GOAT. I'm Mike Davis. That's Jason Feinberg. Coming up on this week's show, we're breaking down everything you need to know for week one in livestock. We're going to be talking about guys that aren't on rosters yet that maybe should be with our guy at Full-Time Fantasy, Ian Ritchie. We also have guys Jason and I are high and low on for week one. And of course, like I alluded to, our favorite fantasy doctor, Dr. Nithin Natwa, is here to talk about those nagging injuries to some of our top players. Plus, our good buddy, Sam Argier, is going to join us to take a look at any potential weather hangups we want to keep our eye on for week one. So we got you fully covered here. But Jason, week one is here officially. Let's get right into livestock. So of course, the big news is Ja'Marr Chase has returned to practice. Still no contract though. Jason, are you concerned with everything that's going on right now currently in Cincinnati? Because it's the contract issue with him. T. Higgins unhappy he didn't get the full deal. He's playing on a one-year deal. Plus, Joe Burrow, he's got that wrist injury on his throwing hand. So what are the feelings you're, thinking about right now when you have players that are Cincinnati?
Yeah, well, right now I'm not taking Ja'Marr Chase. I have an opportunity, I know. Believe it or not, I actually have more drafts.
Same with me.
Yeah, right? So, we're in one together. And I'm going to let you know right now that I'm not taking Ja'Marr Chase. One, because he's doing what he's doing, but also I had him last year, and it was horrible. He did not finish near the top at all, and he didn't have Joe Burrow. I'm afraid of that as well. So, I'm passing on him.
He'd have to go into the second round for me to take him. I mean, first round,
I'll take him,
absolutely not.
I would do first round late, but not the first 8 or 9 picks.
I'm also, do you like the whole Joe Burrow, Slim Shady, frosted hair look? What do you think about that? Eminem style?
Yeah, I'm okay. Look, he's going to be wearing a helmet when we see him, so for most of the time when we're rooting for him, doesn't matter.
Psychologically, though, I'm a little concerned. He's either going to blow up and have a great year, or there's some hidden deep down issues.
He's going to throw up mom's spaghetti.
That was quick.
Thank
All
you.
right, guys, next up, it seems like this year, more than most, there's this obsession with fantasy wideouts. I'm talking about Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze, Xavier Worthy, Ladd McConkey, Brian Thomas, Keon Coleman. I mean, it's getting a little bit out of hand, Jason. And I know we all love fantasy rookie wide receivers because they're sexy. They're the guys you want. I have on one roster, I got Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors. So I'm all bought in. But are we getting a little out of hand? Are these guys really going to be top-tier players in year one?
No, some of them are. We just don't know which ones. I mean, Marvin Harrison is probably the best bet.
Yes.
But a lot of them don't really hit their ceiling until year 2. And that's what we're going to find out.
Who's finding a spot on most of your rosters out of drafts? Who are you drafting the most?
So far, and I remember I joked with you last week about how, young man, I used to be like you.
Yeah.
I've been pretty conservative.
Okay.
I don't think I've taken Ladd McConkey.
Yes.
I have not taken, but I also haven't had a good draft spot. So, I haven't taken any of the rookies.
You're being that wise old
You're
professor
right.
in the movies.
Yeah.
All right, okay. And lastly here in livestock, each and every year, Jason, there's that, a select few teams, the teams that fantasy managers want to be bought into, right? Last season, it was like the teams like that, they exploded, right? This year, there's a lot of excitement surrounding Atlanta, right?
Sure, right.
So we like to buy into those organizations where there's a lot of points, there's a lot of goodness happening. Are you bought into everything going on in Atlanta?
Well, I can give you an example. There's a guy in my league. It's his first time ever playing fantasy football. However, he is an ex-football player for Oakland back in the day, now Las Vegas. And he took 3 guys from Atlanta in his starting lineup.
So I guess it's Drake London, the Kyle Pitts, and either Kirk or Bijan.
Bijan.
Right. So I have a lot of Bijan in leagues, and I love him. I'm reticent to just go all in with Atlanta because I want to see if Kirk Cousins really is the truth. We don't know coming back from that Achilles injury what's going to happen there. But okay, Jason, so now it's time to tackle the waiver wire. Who are some of the guys that were not drafted that really should be rostered? Yeah,
so here to help us is the owner and founder of Full-Time Fantasy, Ian Ritchie. All right, Ian, who is the first guy you got for us?
My first one I'll mention is Adonai Mitchell, who is now in Shane Steichen's offense in Indianapolis, and will be the number 2 receiver there. We like him a lot. He didn't get drafted much. He had a really distinguished college career and has a real opportunity to separate himself from other receivers behind Michael Pittman. So we would really recommend picking him up.
Another rookie receiver right there. All right, so next up, we got a new guy in the backfield in KC. Tell us about that, Ian.
Number 2 is Samaje Perine. And Perine out of Oklahoma has been played on multiple teams. He's been with the and the second Denver released him, Andy Reid was right there to swoop in him and pick him up. So it shows that they have a lot more trust in him than they do Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And so we think he's a great pickup and great handcuff to have to Isaiah Pacheco there in Kansas City. He had 50 catches last year in Denver, and it's a great role for him. So keep your eye on him, and we would recommend him picking him up as well.
All right, so far I like both picks. All right, who's the last guy you got for us, Ian?
Well, the last guy might have actually the biggest upside, and he was an undrafted rookie. It's Jordan Mason with San Francisco. And the reason we like Jordan Mason a lot is a lot of times when players come into the season injured, like Christian McCaffrey, who's a top pick in a good offense, he has a soft tissue injury. And that doesn't really bode very well for players. And so we think Jordan Mason has a real opportunity to potentially take over that job at some point this season. And if he does, he could be the number 1 free agent in the entire this year for your fantasy team. He has enormous upside, and I would pick up Jordan Mason and hope for that injury to McCaffrey. If you have McCaffrey and you don't have Jordan Mason on your team, you've left yourself wide open for a problem.
What's interesting is that even when Elijah Mitchell was playing, Jordan Mason still had more fantasy points with Christian McCaffrey playing.
So Jordan Mason's definitely the guy there in San Francisco. Ian, thank you so much for all that great stuff. As always, we'll see you next week. All right, so coming up, it's GOAT Vision time. Jason and I are breaking down some of our favorite guys for week 1 and some of the guys we're actually staying away from. That's coming up after the short break. All right, welcome back to the Fantasy GOAT. So, Jason, you know what time it is? It's GOAT Vision time. All
right, yes. This is when we tell you the guys that we're high on and low on for week 1. So, Mike, I'm going to kick it off for us. Ready for this?
Yeah.
I am high on all the guys who will be hurt by week 3. Okay? So, we're talking my favorite, Mike Williams. He always gives me 2 great weeks. And that's the last we see of him. But also J.K. Dobbins, Mark Andrews, Devon Achane, Kenneth Walker, Anthony Richardson, Christian Watson, maybe Joe Burrow, and there's more.
Okay, so these, let me just sift through this. So these are the guys who are studs.
Yes.
Absolute studs, but they're made of glass. The guys that they have injuries all the time.
They break my heart.
Okay, I got it. All right, I'm feeling you there. This is who I'm high on for week 1, Jason. Okay, so Jake Ferguson.
Yes.
Okay, in Dallas, the tight end, an absolute stud. He's really a security blanket, frankly, for Dak Prescott. And we all know the offseason Dallas has been having. CeeDee Lamb, he got that big contract, but he was out for a long time. He might be a little stunted, and there might be an interest to just pile and pile and pile targets to Jake Ferguson, and that's what I think Dak's going to do. So I'm big on Jake Ferguson, especially and in week 1, Jason. Now, the guys that we're not so high on and we're not feeling, for me, Jason, that's going to be Kirk Cousins in Atlanta. I actually think Kirk is going to have a comeback-worthy season. Might get that comeback award in Atlanta with Zach Robinson, Raheem Morris, a whole new offense, and he's got a lot of toys to play with in Bijan and Drake London, Kyle Pitts, all these good guys. The problem is, we got to see what's going on with him. He had the whole Achilles injury. Are we going to feel like, okay, he's back in the fold and he's ready to do this thing? He's an older quarterback. So I just want to see the proof in the pudding before I'm all in on Kirk Cousins and Atlanta.
Well, we all freaked out when they took Penix Jr. in the draft early. maybe they know something.
Exactly. So, I mean, they gave him a big chunk of change, but let's still see. I want him to prove it to us before we're all bought it.
Yeah, and going on back on what you were saying about Jake Ferguson, that is why I'm on the same wavelength as you, because I am low on CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is one of those guys who, if I draft him or if I don't draft him, it doesn't matter. He always seems to come on late in the season, and that's when you wish you had him. So he already gets off to a slow start anyway, and then you tackle on the fact that he held out for a while. I think he's going to have a slow couple weeks, so that's where your Jake Ferguson will come in.
And they play Cleveland, a team with a great defense, great secondary, Denzel Ward. So we'll see. I don't know who's going to be covering CeeDee Lamb the whole game, but yeah, it's
I like where you're going. And,
yeah, it makes a lot of sense. All right, so guys, next up, our medical expert is going to join us. Dr. Nithin Natwa is ready with all your medical questions. Make sure you don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back, kids. Kids, that's short for baby goat. Of course, we're going to say kids all year long. But now it's time to get right to our doctor, Nithin Natwa. Doc, thanks so much for being with us.
Yeah. What's up, man? Just the guy we want to talk to. We want to start with Jalen Waddle. Can you break down what's been going on with him?
Yeah, so Jalen Waddle is actually one of my top targets in this draft. He had that calf strain, which they held him out of pretty much the entire preseason for. A lot of people were concerned about that, but in my opinion, with calf strains, they just want to make sure that he's getting back the adequate rest that he needs when there's no reason to play in kind of meaningless games. All it requires is a little bit of rest and recovery. A lot of people have a lot of concerns about him because last year he had that high ankle sprain and he had that concussion that caused him to miss a bunch of games. But I think a lot of people didn't notice that his actual route production went up. So his yards per route went up last season, his targets per route went up, and then also his fantasy points per route, which is the most important factor that we're looking at right here. That also went up last season. The main reason he had that huge backslide is because he had a bunch of injuries, and I don't foresee any of those injuries carrying over to this season. He actually went in my draft, picked 48 2 days ago, and I mean, you got to take him all day in the fourth round.
Yeah, fourth round,
because I think
the end of the fourth round.
Yeah, 100%. He's been falling in every league that I've been in. And lastly, Dr. Natwa, I don't want to really talk about fantasy relevance with this, but I do want to ask you about the unfortunate shooting that Ricky Pearsall, the rookie wide receiver in San Francisco, had to go through. Of course, we're hoping and praying for a good recovery for him. But can you give us a little bit of insight on just what a recovery is going to look like for that? It's such a heart-wrenching thing, a young kid, a rookie, and he's getting ready to play in the NFL, and now he's got to deal with this. Tell us what that recovery is going to look like.
Yeah, first of all, it sounds like he was really lucky. He had a chest gunshot wound, which typically those are very concerning, and there's a few instances where that's not a severe injury. You can kind of see up there that there is a bunch of structures that are at risk in the chest. There's the lungs that are going to be shown shortly, there's the heart, and then there's the spinal column. And a chest gunshot wound puts all three of those structures at risk. But if you look at that top left corner over there, there is a part of the chest that does not contain the lung, the hearts, or the spine.
Oh, wow.
And I think he was lucky enough to be hit in that region where he will require some rehab likely for a pectoralis muscle injury, but that's probably the reason why he was able to be released in 24 hours. It sounds like there's some great bystanders around who were able to stem any kind of significant blood loss, along with the police that showed up rapidly as well.
Wow. All right. Well, Dr. Nithin Natwa at Fantasy Docs on social, thank you so much for all that great fantasy advice. We love it. Take care and good luck week one, Doc. I know you got a lot of leagues you're dealing with.
Sounds like he's counting on Waddle.
Yes.
Yeah, go Waddle.
All right.
Thanks, Doc.
And we've got your Fantasy G.O.A.T cast on deck. We've got one game that looks a lot wetter than the others. That's all coming up as the Fantasy G.O.A.T continues after the break.
Okay, guess who's joining us in studio, Mike? Our favorite weatherman.
Oh, yes, the one, the only, Mr. Sam Argier. Sam, tell us, what do we need to know weather-wise for week one?
Well, guys, it's week one, so we're not talking about big snowstorms just yet, but there's one game I've really got my eye on in Florida that looks to be our best chance of some rain. So if you're maybe playing Baker Mayfield or Jaden Daniels, that could be an issue with a wet football on Sunday afternoon. Warm and rainy down in Florida. I've got a few games down there this weekend. And then also feeling a little more like fall across the Northeast and some calm weather for the West Coast games in Seattle and the Bay Area. This is what the radar looks like as we head into late Sunday morning, early afternoon, depending on your time zone. A lot of rain around Florida and also some scattered showers around the Northeast for areas like New York. Here are the game time temperatures. It's going to be warm in Miami with Jacksonville taking them on. We'll be in the upper 80s. And you know that visitor sideline in Miami, it gets hot. Yeah. Up in the Northeast, we got 57 degrees as we do head up toward that Buffalo game. And I think that's going to be the best chance of showers up in Buffalo in the Northeast. And then the late afternoon evening games, the big one, of course, Tom Brady making his broadcasting debut in Cleveland against Dallas. 63, really nice weather there. Great weather up in Seattle at 77. And then another game we've got our eye on is that Tampa Bay game. That is the game I really think will be wettest late Sunday afternoon into the evening. Sunday night game, no worries there. It's a Dome Stadium in Detroit. And then the Monday night game, of course, Aaron Rodgers heading to the Bay Area to take on San Francisco. 76 should be great weather at the Bay. So overall, no major weather hurdles. But again, that Tampa Bay game is looking a little bit wetter.
Okay, so maybe Mike Evans, watch out a little bit. Maybe
Scary
Rashad
Terry
White has a bigger game on the ground, maybe less throwing, more on the ground. So interesting. Look at this, Jason.
What's this?
I come bearing gifts, gentlemen.
Oh.
You know how people will donate artifacts to museums?
Sure.
I won this with my family over the summer. We do a big family camping trip with 6 other families. It's called Campapalooza. We won the scavenger hunt, so we won a GOAT trophy.
Wow.
Big thank you to the Magnus family for organizing that, by the way. They're big fans of the Fantasy GOAT. So I wanted to donate this to you guys for the show. It's a GOAT trophy.
Well, Jason, you should be holding this because, first of all, thank you, Sam. But
you're welcome.
He won last year, head to head.
Yeah,
he did.
So, this year I'm trying to tell.
I'm trying to hold back my emotions.
But right now it's yours.
Well, yeah, I got a lot of second places last year, but I now have the GOAT trophy.
The GOAT trophy.
Of course, it was only against one other opponent.
Yeah,
but still. Anyway, I will treasure this. Thank you.
You
and
bet,
thanks
gentlemen.
to the Magnus family?
The Magnus family, yeah.
Okay.
Brooke, AJ, Huck, Sully, and their whole family is amazing. So, yeah, the Magnus family.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
I love this weather segment. Thank you. This is going to be fun all season long.
I'm excited. This is the best time of the year right now.
Best time of the year. And this is the insight that we need. Listen, we're getting the medical advice. We're getting the weather advice. You should be winning your leagues with all these experts that we have.
That's why we're here.
All right. I love it. Thank you guys so much. After a short break, we're back at it. GOAT lineup is next.
All right. Got to keep this. GOAT lineup.
I want to take it.
This is the Fantasy GOAT.
Well, fantasy football brings out the competitor in all of us, Jason. And here on the GOAT, Jason and I compete week in and week out. So here's how GOAT lineup works for all you new kids at home. So each week, Jason and I face off head-to-head in standard scoring by selecting one QB, one RB, one wide receiver, and lastly, one tight end. Here's the catch, though. We can only use a player one time all year, so it's kind of a little bit like Survivor style. So last year, you were the GOAT, Jason. That's why Sam gave you that majestic, forever, beautiful GOAT trophy. But this year, we're getting ready to kick it off. So, Jason, you start us off as the defending champ. Tell us who is your GOAT lineup for week 1.
All right, let's flash it on the board right there. And so I'm starting this. Okay, this goes with my theory. You remember, I listed Anthony Richardson from Indianapolis as one of my guys I'm high on because by week 3 he won't be playing anymore. So I might as well use him while I still can. Same goes for my running back, Kenneth Walker, who we know gets injured a lot. So I got those 2 guys in there. I'm taking a chance with Stephon Diggs. He's new to Houston, so I think maybe he and Stroud might want to build that connection sooner than later, because you know what, with Diggs in Buffalo, he wasn't happy. So Stroud probably wants to make him happy. So he's my wide receiver.
And I just drafted him in my dad's league. We were talking about.
Yes,
that, right?
that's right.
That's right. Can I with a brilliant name? Reveal the name to everybody.
For sure. So
he has Cooper Kupp and Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, and your dad is a plastic surgeon.
Yeah.
The original name was Team Liposuction, which is good. It's good, but I felt it could do more.
Yeah.
So I figured with those 2 guys, his team name should be Diggin' the C Cups. And that's what he's going with.
That's what he's going. He loved it. He thought it was genius. So anyway,
tight end Tyler Conklin, trying to save some of the better tight ends for when we get into the season and we can kind of see what they look like. But I kind of feel like Aaron Rodgers will target
No, I love that.
Conklin. Yeah.
I just picked up Tyler Conklin in Dr. Feinberg
I didn't know that. Okay.
So I just did that in full-time fantasy. And I also have Anthony Richardson as my QB in that league. So I'm hoping he has a good year. So I like that lineup. All right, here's my lineup, everybody. So week 1, I'm going with Trevor Lawrence. I think it's going to be a shootout with him in Miami. So I think Brian Thomas, he had a down year. He's got to bounce back. We were both big on him last year. Trevor Lawrence has the talent. He has the ability. Now you got to do your thing, man. You got Brian Thomas. You got Ingram. You got Christian Kirk. There's enough weapons there.
Isn't it crazy
score some points.
That people are drafting him as a backup now?
Oh, it's crazy.
I did.
He fell from heaven. So we'll see what happens there. Next up, running back. I got James Cook. I think Buffalo is going to be a good team again, but I think they're going to be really a lot more run heavy than pass heavy. No Diggs anymore. No Gabe Davis. Keon Coleman might be the #1 wideout as a rookie. So I think James Cook should have a big game. T. Higgins is my wide receiver. We all know the drama with Jamar Chase in Cincinnati, so I think the rapport is going to be strong with T. He's going to maybe be the #1 wideout week 1. And then Johnny Munt, Minnesota. We know Hawkinson is out, so I figured I'd use a tight end like that. So that's my lineup right there. Good stuff for our GOAT lineups for week 1. Everybody, good luck for week 1, Jason. Good luck, my man.
Good luck.
We still have 2 drafts.
We still have 2 drafts to go.
So we got a lot going on.
Yes, I wonder if we'll overreact to the first 2 games.
We'll see what happens. Guys, good luck week 1. Good luck in your drafts. We'll see you next time here on the Fantasy GOAT.
See ya.